you out. My name is Jarrah White. Over the past few years, I have become known as the grandson of the Apollo moon hoax theory. As part of my ever-growing search for the truth, I refer to your November 3rd, 2007 show, in which you interviewed Captain Jim Lovell about the recent documentary, The Shadow in the Moon.
In the Shadow of the Moon, on its opening weekend, grossed more per screen than The Game Plan with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson. So, I never thought I would say this, but the market has spoken. The moon landing happened.
You really believe that now?
I believe that the moon landing happened now. I have no choice but to.
Well, I've been sued because people didn't believe that we went to the moon.
Now, I did not believe it for a long time. You actually got sued by people. I never thought of doing that. But who sued you? I should have gotten a piece of that. Who sued you over the moon landing not happening?
A fellow thought we did it all out in West Texas.
That's what I thought.
And actually, it was hard to prove that we actually went there. I said, I've been there twice. And he said, oh, no, you faked it. And, here you a fraud on the American taxpayer.
Well, that's what made me angry, too. But now that I know that we went, I mean, first of all, what a startling thing that we, as human beings, have gone to the moon. I will never forget where I was when I found out that your movie made more money than Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson.
And just who is this man who sued Captain Lovell? We are not told on your show, and I feel it is my obligation to enlighten you. You're probably wondering, if I am the grandson of the Apollo hoax theory, who is the grandfather? Contrary to popular belief, I am not related to fellow conspiracy theorist Jack White. I am known as the grandson because I take on after the late Bill Kaysing. Kaysing, who during his career at Rocketdyne, the company that built the Saturn V's engines during his time there, made no secret of the fact that as early as 1961, NASA and the Defense Intelligence Agency started a clandestine organization called ASP. It's an anagram for Apollo Simulation Project. As the name suggests, it was a government organization assembled together to simulate flights to the moon and purport them to be the real thing. Subsequent to his retirement in May of 1963, Kaysing was one of the few people in the world who did not watch the moon landing when it aired on TV. He was aware of the Apollo 1 fire, the catastrophic test launch of Apollo 6. He had been carrying his knowledge of the Apollo Simulation Project, and subsequently, as he put it, I could not generate enthusiasm for watching a phony performance.
So you're working at the rocket place, working for the space program. You eventually leave the space program. At that point, did you know that the moon landings were going to be faked? Because you said in 1959, the United States of America realized they couldn't put a man on the moon, so they'd start faking stuff. Why didn't you spill the beans right then?
Well, I don't know. What motivated me to spill the beans was a young man from the Vietnam Wars by the name of John Grant, and he said that he was sent to Vietnam to kill people with no good reason. He also got a heroin habit, and he says, Bill, what I want you to do is to blow the whistle on this rotten, corrupt government. And he says, why don't you say something outrageous like we never went to the moon? So I attribute my interest in this project to John Grant.
As revealed in an attachment he had sent to Jim Lovell, Kaysing states that his investigation was further heightened when he learned of Thomas Ronald Barron, a safety inspector for North American Aviation. And I quote, "While working at Pad 34, Barron discovered the incompetence of his employer and the gross mismanagement by NASA. This was documented in 2 reports, one of 50 pages, the other 450. These revelations were corroborated by a 500-page report compiled by General Sam Phillips, head of the entire Apollo project. After the death of astronauts Grissom, Chaffee and White on Pad 34, Barron came forth to testify before a congressional investigation committee. Within 3 days, he was dead, ostensibly by being crushed in a car locomotive accident. I hired a detective in Florida to investigate Barron's death, and he reported that Barron was not autopsied and promptly cremated. I consulted with a conspiracy expert who said that the death of any important witness is well worth investigating, and this investigation continues to this day. The most memorable quote from Kaysing's book comes at the very end. In closing, if the truth is we went to the moon, I will make a public apology for even suspecting the people involved in such a gigantic hoax and swindle. If the truth is that we did not go to the moon, may God have mercy on certain souls. In 1996, Bill Kaysing and aerospace engineer Bill Wood attended a book conference that Jim Lovell hosted in San Jose, California.
Bill went to someplace he was speaking, and when it was done, Bill hit him on questions and answers, okay? And Bill never got nasty, you know. Bill always had a smile on his face, all that shit. He's not like me. I get plain ass mean. But Bill didn't do that. He just, it's a wonderful world.
Not only was Kaysing obligated to apologize if proven wrong, he was also kind enough to send Jim Lovell this letter. I shall read it to you. Dear Jim, I was delighted to talk with you about Apollo 13 after your seminar on crisis management in Ballroom A at the San Jose Convention Center on Friday, June 21, 1996. Your ebullience and enthusiasm after a rigorous 6.5-hour lecture was most impressive. Also, I much appreciate your upbeat and jocular reception to my Apollo hoax theories and your willingness to accept my book, We Never Went to the Moon, plus Dr. Van Meulen's Kubrick filming conception. Finally, your courtesy to my associate, aerospace engineer Bill Wood, was extremely gratifying. It is not often that an investigative journalist such as myself has the opportunity to meet with someone who obviously practices what he preaches, grace under pressure. For your information, and in response to your counsel to me to think positive, I am enclosing the following items. Why I wrote the book We Never Went to the Moon, Bill Wood's lecture notes based on the above, miscellaneous data for your review and possible amusement. Again, my meeting with you in person was most edifying and revealing. With all good wishes for your continued success in your work, most sincerely, Bill Kaysing. I cannot imagine myself writing such a polite letter to one of my enemies. Unfortunately, Jim Lovell was not so polite.
You know what he did? He sends Bill, this is before the suit, he sends Bill this nasty letter, and then he sends me a copy of it.
Dear Mr. Kaysing, I've reviewed your manuscript, We Never Went to the Moon, and if there is any fabrication concerning the Apollo program, it is in your book. How anyone with any intelligence, and certainly someone who worked for Rocketdyne, could believe we faked the landings on the moon has to have a screw loose. If you wrote this trash for momentary gain, knowing full well it was not true, then I accuse you of deliberately lying to your readers. I personally made 2 trips to the moon, Apollo 8 in December 1969, his typo, and in April of 1970. You heard my speech, and I am not accustomed to making up stories for my audiences. I personally did not land on the moon, but as backup commander to Neil Armstrong on Apollo 11, I am positive he made the first landing, followed by 5 others. If you sincerely believe the United States faked the lunar landings, then you are truly a tragic figure. You, like Don Quixote, are tilting windmills, and have wasted precious hours of your life in a futile quest. Take my advice, tear up your manuscript, and pursue a project that has some meaning. Leave a legacy you can be proud of, not some trash whose readers will doubt your sanity. Sincerely, James A. Lovell. Not only did Lovell send this personal letter to Renee and Kaysing, he went public with his statements in an article in the San Jose Metro. The guy is wacky. His position makes me feel angry. We spent a lot of time getting ready to go to the moon, we spent a lot of money, we took great risks, and it's something everybody in this country should be proud of. His problem is, he saw the movie Capricorn 1, and now he thinks that's really the way it goes. That's a lie, and Lovell knows it. Kaysing's book was written in 1974 and published in 1976, as anyone who reviewed it would know. Capricorn 1 was not only released in 1978, but inspired nearly word for word from Kaysing's book, right down to his initial theory that the capsules were launched unmanned.